Well, what a race, the 2025 Gent-Wevelgem, and what a show by last year's winner, defending champion, Mads Pedersen. One of the favorites coming into this race, and we expected him to be lighting up the sprint, not going away solo, but that was the option he chose. 72 kilometers to go on the first of 3 gravel sectors, plug streets. Mads Pedersen goes to the front, lights it up. Only Jasper Philipsen and Olav Kooij could follow. Mads Pedersen, though, soon was on his own without those two because Jasper punctured. Kooij, well, he crashed. And so Mads was there wondering, was this the right move? Should I have gone so far? We still had another round of the Kemmelberg, and we still had plenty of racing to go, a long way from the finish for a sprinter. But Mads is no sprinter. He's an all-around rider, former world champion, and now 3-time winner of the Gent-Wevelgem. I'm here on site in Wevelgem, where just behind me it was Mads Pedersen taking the solo victory and plenty of time in hand. And back behind, well, nothing was left to do but sprint for the silver medal, the second place. And that honor went to Tim Merlier from Team Quickstep, Soudal Quickstep. Really a classics team that we haven't seen living up to its name in the past, the Super Classics team. And in third place, well, another Lidl Trek rider, teammate of Mads Pedersen, the Dane. Well, it was his Italian teammate, the big, tall rider, Jonathan Milan, who sprinted home for third place to round out the podium for Lidl Trek, squeezing in the sandwich of Tim Merlier. But Mads Pedersen knocking off his 50th career victory today. First taking also the Gent-Wevelgem in 2020, last year winner, and then again here in 2025. A massive win for Pedersen, and now we have to look to him as one of the big stars and the favorite for the upcoming Flanders, and a week later, Paris-Roubaix. In this race, well, the pressure was on his shoulders without those big riders, namely Mathieu van der Poel, who'd won Milano-San Remo and who'd won E3 Saxo Classic. And without van der Poel here, well, the pressure was on his teammate, Jasper Philipsen, to deliver sprinter, and on the other riders, and of course on Mads Pedersen, like I had said. And then we don't have Wout van Aert, the Visma Lease bike rider. So in their team, they were looking for Kooij, Olav Kooij, to do something. Perhaps their man, Matteo Jorgensen, the American, and perhaps a new signee, Dan McClay. In fact, after Kooij had crashed, it was over to sprinter Dan McClay and over to Matteo Jorgensen to do the moves for Visma Lease bike, the team in yellow and black. And then we have to look to the team of UAE Emirates without the superstar rider, Tadej Pogacar, in the race. He's parachuting in for Flanders, for Roubaix. UAE, well, forget about it. It was down to the other riders. And what was interesting, what we saw from Matteo Jorgensen, he wasn't quite where he needed to be. They were riding for Olav Kooij, and Kooij was there when Mads Pedersen attacked, and we knew the gravel sector was going to be key. Hill 63, they call it 63 for the 63 meters in altitude, one of these gravel sectors out there. But Jorgensen, where was he? He was way back. He said he was caught out leading into that gravel sector. And why is that important? Well, maybe not so much for Gent-Wevelgem, although Gent-Wevelgem would have been a great win after his win last year in Dwars voor Vlaanderen. Of course, he comes in as 2-time Paris-Nice stage race winner. But it's also important because we're looking ahead to Flanders, Dwars first on Wednesday, then Flanders and Roubaix, those big ones, and it's all about positioning. Climbs, well, we don't have many of those, especially not high at altitude here in Belgium and then in France for Paris-Roubaix. So it's all about positioning and riding well on these technical bits and bobs. And so Matteo Jorgensen needs to learn that, needs to make sure he's up there. And with Wout van Aert back in action for Flanders, it's all going to be about that. And the team's got to lift its game up if it wants to compete at the top level. But we need to talk about Pedersen because he took a page out of the book of Mathieu van der Poel and Tadej Pogacar, with Tadej Pogacar's big attack there in Milano-San Remo, ripping it up, detonating the peloton on the Cipressa early on in Milano-San Remo, so far out. Van der Poel went with him as well, so did Ghana. He learned from that, but he also learned from the E3 Saxo Bank when it was there again that we saw Van der Poel winning the race. But remember who lit it up first there in the Timeberg? Well, it's Mads Pedersen. We knew he was a favorite coming into this race. He was last year's winner, #1 on the bike, and he didn't disappoint, and he gave us the victory again, but gave it to us in great style with that solo victory, attacking for 72 kilometers out, solo from 50 kilometers out when he caught the escape riders, ditched those guys, and then went away on his own. Now we saw Jorgensen trying to ride up the Kemmelberg, trying to be at the front, trying to do something, but it was too little, too late. We saw Jasper Philipsen also on the front there after he got his tire replaced, his bike fixed and ready to go, but again, too little, too late. And what's interesting there is Alpecin, they should have had another rider there for Philipsen. It shouldn't have been Philipsen who had to be on the front riding to try to bring back Mads Pedersen and riding first up the Kemmelberg, but that's how it is. That's how it was out there. So lessons learned that we're going to take into Flanders, we're going to take into Roubaix, and we're going to take into Flanders Mads Pedersen as one of our top star favorites. There along with Tadej Pogacar, there along with Van der Poel, and we hope Wout van Aert, who's coming back up to form after his Tenerife training camp, popping back in there for the E3, and we hope also his teammate American Matteo Jorgensen. But today, here in Wevelgem, in Flanders, in Belgium, is a Dane from Lidl Trek, marking his 50th victory, Mads Pedersen.